This is Part 2, Episode 176. A figure flashed through the muddled yellow lake with lightning-like speed. Flames lingered around the figure. Each time a flame made contact with the surrounding water, it would emit a series of sizzling sound. It is indeed worthy of being the Nine Serene Spring. The dark and cold had been blasted into a cluster of blood. The dark and cold force in this lake was such that even a 9 serene deep-ground python could not endure for long, much less live in it for a prolonged period of time. Hiss hiss. Before Xiao Yan could dive again, after blasting apart that black figure, he suddenly sensed more water had begun to fluctuate. A black fog quickly filled the edges of his sight. Xiao Yan's expression drastically changed upon seeing this black fog. It was not a true black fog. Instead, this black fog was made up of a countless number of strange black snakes with unusual scales. The hissing sound was being emitted from these strange snakes. These strange snakes widened their ferocious mouths while they were still a great distance away from Xiao Yan. Many deep black water arrows shot out of their mouths. The lake water split apart when these water arrows touched it, causing the speed of the water arrows to increase. The buzzing sound of arrows rushing forward shook the surrounding lake water until it emitted a deep explosive sound. What a dark and chilly energy! Xiao Yan glanced at the dark black water arrows and frowned. These water arrows were similar to the dark and chilly force of the 9 serene. These afterimages were then penetrated by the tons of water arrows being shot over from behind. What troublesome things! These strange snakes continued to follow Xiao Yan like maggots in his bones regardless of how he increased his speed. Finally, his expression became chilly. He glanced behind before clenching his hand. A cluster of flames appeared in it. He then tossed the flames back before they soared. The flames turned into a fire cloud that spread apart. Hiss hiss. The fire cloud then spread into a sea of fire. Even though the dark and cold force could not be destroyed, those strange snakes still ended up colliding with the sea of fire due to them failing to stop in time. The high temperature incinerated all of the strange snakes that collided with it in an instant. Hiss hiss. Those strange snakes began to reveal a horror when they sensed this frightening fire. After briefly hesitating, he suddenly clenched his hand in front of him. Clash! Rocks rolled. Xiao Yan narrowed his eyes after seeing this extremely large metal chain appear. He grabbed with his hand and the metal chain was slowly pulled out. After which, the ground also began to shake before another 3 metal chains rose from the ground. These metal chains were connected to a mountain-like outcropping. It was impossible to move it with a tug. Xiao Yan's eyes was unconcerned about where the metal chains connected to. His eyes stared at the middle of the 4 chains. There was a large cluster of black mud there. Xiao Yan waved his hand as he studied the cluster of mud. The mud was scattered in the process. The thing inside was exposed after the mud scattered. It was a person. A person whose body was dry and shriveled like a skeleton. What a powerful aura this person has. It is likely an elite Doshing whose strength has reached the 3rd star. Why was he locked in this place? The figure's Do Chi. This caused the figure to remain in an extremely weak state, but it would not hurt his life. All this figure could do was live on the edge of his last breath amid this everlasting exhaustion. Whoever trapped this fellow is really ruthless. This is even more vicious than directly killing him. Surprise flashed across Xiao Yan's heart. It was unexpected that he had stumbled across such a mysterious thing at the bottom of the 9 Serene Spring. I am the tribe chief of the 9 Serene Deep-Ground Python tribe, Yao Ming. That skeleton-like human figure caught his breath for a moment before finally replying to Xiao Yan's question. His voice was extremely hoarse. It was like a rock was scratching glass, an extremely ear-piercing noise. Rescue me. As long as you rescue me, I will agree to any condition you propose. The person who called himself Yao Ming stared at Xiao Yang with pleading eyes as he pleaded spring. Ah! That bastard! He has made me suffer simmering in this dark and cold force for centuries. If I am lucky to see the sky again, I, Yao Ming, will ensure he suffers a fate worse than death. Yao Ming's eyes immediately turned blood red after the name Yao Xiaotian entered his ears. An endless hatred surged within his eyes. His crazy roar continued to reverberate around the bottom of the spring. Xiao Yang was quietly speechless upon hearing this cry. This fellow had been sealed in this place for centuries. This fate was indeed quite pitiful. The dark and cold force of the nine serene spring was just like sharp blades, as it invaded one's body. That piercing pain was something that an ordinary person could not endure, yet this person in front of him had suffered this bitterness for centuries. Even Xiao Yang involuntarily shook his head after learning this information. Can you tell me about the relationship between you and that Yao Xiaotian? Xiao Yang spread his hands and asked. I am Yao Xiaotian's elder brother by blood. Yao Ming hesitated for a moment before speaking in a hoarse tone. I should have been the true successor, as the tribe chief of the nine serene deep-ground python tribe. Many of the elders in the tribe favored me. It would normally have been impossible for Yao Xiaotian to be the tribe chief. He also understood this in his heart. Hence, he was usually extremely respectful to me, and a blood light rushed out. Finally, this blood light stopped in front of Xiao Yang. The light was a palm-sized blood-colored crystal. The middle of the crystal seemed to possess an endless flowing blood, giving it an exceptionally strange appearance. Is this the spring blood crystal? Xiao Yang softly muttered as he studied the blood crystal with its strangeness. Xiao Yang extended his hand and received the blood-colored crystal body suspended in front of him. A frighteningly dark and cold force spread from his hand. It immediately began to freeze one of Xiao Yang's hands. It is indeed the spring blood crystal. This dark and cold force is really frightening. Xiao Yang nodded joyously after seeing this crystal. He shook his hand and the ice crystal cracked. After which, he put the blood crystals into his storage ring. He looked at that Yao Ming and asked, how can I rescue you? Do I destroy these 4 metal chains? There is no need for that. These metal chains are not the things that restrain me. Instead, it is the yellow spring-yin rock attached to the ends of the chains. There is an endless dark and cold force surging from it that exhausts the do-chi of a heavenly flame. Is this the yellow spring-yin rock? Xiao Yang clenched his fist as he looked at the dark black mountain. A vast and mighty do-chi surged and ruthlessly smashed into the mountain body. Bang! An enormous water wave spread with a rumble from the spot where Xiao Yang's fist landed. However, that dark black mountain merely trembled. Xiao Yang's punch, which could seriously injure an elite Bansheng, failed to even leave behind a slight imprint on this rock. The yellow spring-yin rock has been refined by the dark and cold force in the spring for an uncountable number of years. It is extremely hard, possibly even indestructible. Even if I recover my strength, it would still be extremely difficult for me to destroy it. Yao Ming spoke in a hoarse voice after seeing the commotion that Xiao Yang stirred. Xiao Yang slightly knit his brows. He suddenly grabbed a metal chain with his hand and a sizzling white fog was emitted. He quickly removed his hand. A thick white frost had already spread across his palm. The interior of this metal chain seemed to be a void that was filled with a dark and cold force. Only now did he understand why this Yao Ming had been locked in this place for centuries. He looked at Xiao Yang with eyes that were filled with wild joy. While Xiao Yang was breaking Yao Ming's seal, it was extremely lively within a magnificent palace in the underground serene snake network. The leaders of the many snake people tribes had gathered there as their laughter echoed through the large hall. A black-clothed man was seated on the throne within the palace. He appeared quite handsome, but there was a dark chillness, which could not be hidden, on his brow. Both of his eyes were slightly shut. A glint flickered in them. His eyes appeared like poisonous snakes that could kill a person in an instant, leaving a chill in one's heart. Two ladies with enchanting figures carefully massaged the man's body, as his large hand continuously roamed over the soft lovely bodies of the two ladies, causing their eyes to appear a little lost. The both of them appeared unusually enchanting. The shut eyes of the black-clothed man were suddenly opened. A shocked expression. Xiao Yan's expression changed after seeing that figure. He waved his sleeve. Kaylin sighed in relief after landing beside Xiao Yan. Her hand hurriedly rubbed away the blood on the corner of her mouth. Xiao Yan's eyes became cold after seeing the trace of blood on the corner of Kaylin's mouth. He did not open his mouth to ask anything. Instead, he slowly lifted his head. There was a black-clothed person suspended in the air. The black-clothed person was looking at Xiao Yan with an unusually dark and vicious pair of eyes. This person suddenly arrived and dragged the three of us out. Qinglin and the little fairy doctor have been wounded by him. Kaylin clenched her teeth as she spoke. Xiao Yan looked at a spot a short distance from the spring. Both Qinglin's and the little fairy doctor's auras were a little chaotic. They had both suffered a serious injury. His eyes became even icy. That black-clothed man in the sky looked at Xiao Yan and the skeleton-like Yao Ming with an extremely dense eyes.